Data's day. Data records his activities, observations, and insights for an entire day on the Enterprise.
Data is recording a personal log to send to Bruce Maddox. I was hoping we'd never bring him up again. And he says he's going to chronicle a day in his life to help Maddox with his study of data.
There's a shift change on the bridge, and they actually inform each other of what's going on, which seemed very realistic, and I liked.
Lieutenant Juarez went into labor at 0400 hours. We remain at station awaiting the arrival of Starship Zhukov, and guest quarters have been prepared for Ambassador T'Pel.
Data goes to visit a woman named Keiko, who is apparently preparing to marry Chief O'Brien, even though that's never come up before, but she has decided to call the wedding off.
She asks Data to relay the information to O'Brien.
And he believes he has figured out how to predict human emotional reactions, so he informs O'Brien in what he thinks is an appropriate manner.
Keiko has made a decision designed to increase her happiness. She has canceled the wedding.
She what?
So it's going to be a Data episode centered around his lack of understanding of humanity and emotions and whatnot. So we'll see if it goes for intelligent writing or chooses to fly wildly off the rails in obvious stupidity.
Vulcan Ambassador T'Pel beams aboard, and Data notes that his lack of emotion makes him more similar to Vulcans than humans.
She has something to discuss with Picard about a secret mission, so we don't know anything about it yet.
Data next goes to Geordi, who is getting a haircut from one of the members of the Blue Man Group. It's good to know that they're still around in the future. He says Geordi is helping him understand how friends sometimes insult each other in a friendly way, and that he considers Geordi his best friend.
My hair does not require trimming, you lunkhead.
What?
My hair does not require trimming, you...
Lunkhead?
And I like how Geordi keeps moving while he's getting his haircut. I'm sure it's going to turn out great.
He then goes to Worf, who's picking out a wedding gift for Keiko and O'Brien, and I liked his reactions to Data's questions.
Have you ever been an actual participant in a human wedding?
No.
This is a traditional gift.
Yes, my adoptive parents often give these things at family weddings.
But it's not like Klingons don't have a concept of putting fluids in containers in order to drink them.
He goes to Beverly next and asks her to teach him how to dance, and it looks like a chance to get some of Gates McFadden's other abilities into the show, and I wonder how much of it was actually her idea. Picard asks Data to research some Romulan activity near the neutral zone as they head towards it, and Data's chair seemed really low in this scene.
When Data goes to his quarters, we learn that he has a cat.
O'Brien asks Data to convince Keiko to go through with the wedding, and he says he already asked Troy, but it didn't help, which was not entirely surprising.
Would Counselor Troy not be a more appropriate choice to speak with Keiko?
She already has. Didn't help.
Keiko doesn't want to hear what Data has to say, so then Data goes to talk to Troy about it.
And he reveals that he considers marriage an option for himself.
Which I thought was interesting.
I thought it was dumb.
Okay.
He is summoned by Ambassador T'Pel, who requests information about the Enterprise's defenses. And when Data says he must run it by the captain first, she says,
I was not interested in the information. I was curious as to your security safeguards. They appear to be adequate.
He says he wants to be suspicious to her reasoning, but he's a robot, so he can't. He then goes to the holodeck to learn how to dance. I mean, obviously it was going for a humorous tone. Did you think it was funny?
I thought parts of it were funny. I liked when she tells him to smile and act like he's enjoying himself.
It was like watching Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers in space. For the more complicated stuff, Brent Spiner was replaced, but Gates McFadden's dancing was admittedly pretty decent. And at the end when she leaves, Data makes a holodeck dance partner, and I thought for a second it was Denise Crosby, because it kind of looked like her, but that would have been way too much.
When he goes back to the bridge, Riker is hitting on someone by telling a weird story about beheading someone or something.
With an axe, yeah.
Maybe I've been using the wrong tactics.
They detect a Romulan ship in the neutral zone and actually meet it at predetermined coordinates. And it's a good thing all the doors on the Enterprise are tall enough for T'Pel to fit through without ducking down.
She beams over to the Romulan ship for negotiations, overriding Picard's objections.
And the negotiations are a big deal, because Romulans are jerks.
But as she is beaming over, they lose the signal and she doesn't survive.
They're investigating what happened, and Data reveals
There's no prior record of this type of accident occurring aboard a starship. Backup systems and safeguards are designed to prevent just such an occurrence.
And there are no prior malfunctions or interference from the Romulans either, they say. The Romulans accuse Picard of not taking the negotiations seriously and fabricating the accident.
So they decide to call off the negotiations.
Data goes to Beverly, and she ends up showing how sloppy she was in her portion of the investigation.
He asks her if she compared the ambassador's DNA to the remains left on the transporter, and she says,
No, that's not standard procedure. Why?
but they already said that this has never happened before. And of course, it turns out the remains were not those of the ambassador.
The Romulans did a simultaneous transport to beam T'Pel out while putting the remains back on the pad. Picard wants to go confront the Romulans, and Data says,
The safest and most logical decision in this situation is to contact Starfleet and await further instructions. I project only a 17% chance Captain Picard will choose that alternative.
which honestly I was surprised it was that high, based on what we've seen.
And it turns out T'Pel was a Romulan spy the whole time.
We've already established that Romulans and Vulcans are different. Beverly even couldn't treat a Romulan because she just assumed it would be like a Vulcan in an earlier episode.
We thought it would be like working on Vulcans, but there are subtle differences. Too many of them.
Can you treat him?
And when they beam through the transporter, all of their data or whatever passes through it, so nobody figured it out. We then get back to the wedding, and I am glad that all of that subplot was put on hold during the Romulan stuff and didn't try and coexist at the same time.
And I noted that Data did not smile while he was dancing. Then, in a weird moment, Picard is observing a newborn baby in the nursery. They did bring up the pregnant woman a few times over the course of the episode, so it's not like it came out of nowhere, but it seemed out of character for Picard.
Yeah, he doesn't like kids. You would think he would try and avoid it until it was an adult. I found another Romulan spy. We close with Data replacing Worf on the bridge, similar to the opening.
And Data reflects on what it means to be human and whether he may get there someday.
Data's Day. Overall,
I enjoyed that this was an episode just following a character around through the whole thing, and having Data making a personal log for someone else was a good way to reveal his thoughts on everything. I liked that it felt organic the way he was going to different characters and comparing himself to them. The stuff with Data learning to dance went on for a little bit too long, but I didn't really mind it that much. I liked that the Romulan plot ended essentially with the main characters losing. The Romulans basically succeed at what they're doing and get away with everything. So that was kind of cool and unexpected. And I'm glad they didn't use the focus on Data as an opportunity for a lot of really dumb jokes. There was humor there, but it was tolerable, or even actually funny sometimes. I gave it a B.
I gave this one an A-. I would argue that this was probably the best episode so far, focused on Data's insights into humanity. It was presented in a clever way that, while going a little over the top at times, was still grounded enough to be very enjoyable. Brent Spiner's acting is good. He has managed to make this emotionless android into a real character over the course of the series so far, which is part of why this episode works so well. And I really liked how much regular day stuff was going on, with Data specifically calling it out. I know we've talked about that before, and it was nice to see it actually happen. And even though so much was happening, it was balanced very well too. Using Data's narration as a log sent to someone was, again, a decent way to get his viewpoints and thoughts out there. It was much better than Remember Me, when Beverly was just talking to herself out loud, which was idiotic.
I agree.